What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Phaithful Phanatics show live here on DSM-Media's Philadelphia YouTube channel. Guys, first and foremost, if you are new to the channel and you want to be interactive throughout today's morning show or any of our shows here we have on the channel, make sure to support by smashing that subscribe button. It is the best spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up here on the screen with your host. I'm one half of them this morning, Dylan Davis. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. Eagles, Saquon Barkley. Mutual interest, Scotty. We're going to be talking about that along with a lot of other free agency news and updates and rumors when it comes to our Philadelphia Eagles, where their attention should be focused, where Howie Roseman should be directing the majority of their cap space to this offseason. And the Sixers lose in another heartbreaker at home to a Memphis Grizzlies team that they simply should not have lost to. Twitter and social media, again, in an uproar, divided is Sixers Nation, man. Going back and forth over how to feel about these recent losses and recent struggles while being injury-plagued. We're going to talk about it all. But happy Friday, my man. What's going on?
Happy Friday, brother. I'm feeling pretty good this morning. Into the work week. And we got a big sports weekend ahead, man. We'll cap off the week here with some Sixers Pelicans. Which is interesting. It's bittersweet for a Duke fan like myself. I get to watch my boy Zion, Brandon Ingram down there. So it'll be a fun game. No Maxey again, so I don't know how fun it will be, but fun nonetheless. Right. This weekend, though, the Duke-UNC matchup. That's what I'm looking forward to the most. Tomorrow, I believe it's at 6 p.m., 6:30 p.m.
6:30, something like that.
Yeah, Duke senior night. So I'm excited for that. Big weekend of sports. We're getting into March Madness for real. The tournament's coming. And we're getting closer to NBA playoffs, hopefully closer to an Embiid return. We're getting close to the beginning of the Phillies season, right? Their opening weekend. So there's a lot coming. We're on the brink of greatness here. When even weather, man, you see the sun shining through the window here. We're getting closer to that spring-esque weather, the 70 degrees, 75
yeah,
degrees.
Man. Daylight savings, clocks go forward, bad.
Life's getting better.
Works. Yeah,
life's getting better, man.
We are at least getting sunshine until after 7 p.m. Very shortly, which is all I can ask for. Scotty's drinking a White Claw this morning, but nonetheless, the Flyers, by the way, too, man. I don't know if you saw.
Yeah, shout out to the Fly guys, man.
25 seconds, getting one past the hottest team in Florida on the road.
And
that is a gigantic win for this team.
And from my understanding, getting a pretty good deal done on trade deadline or the day before trade deadline day, able to get a first round pick. So yeah, man. I mean, a lot of good things going on right now. A lot of outside of the Sixers, a lot of good things going on. Even the NFL, man. We're going to talk about the Eagles today. Like NFL free agency, I feel like is kind of shaping well for the Eagles. Like every position that we need, there's somebody nice available that can fit that role. Plenty of guys, right?
It's a great year for the Eagles to be in the safety market. Finally, it seems like Howie is directing his attention there. Like he's aware that he has to invest more in that position and other positions that maybe he hasn't invested more in the past, which brings us to an interesting conversation soon of the title of the show with one former Giant running back. He hasn't really invested in that position long-term, multi-year deals, heavy money going there. If he's understanding, maybe he goes in a different direction this offseason, man, but we'll get into it. Let's start the Sixers. Let's get the negative out of the way first. Let's get with what's actually transpiring on a field or on a basketball floor right now, and that is the fact that the Sixers blew another double-digit lead, blew another fourth-quarter lead with a couple minutes left to just, quite frankly, a team that should not be occurring against no matter who is healthy or not for the Sixers. Look, let's get this out of the way. I understand how difficult it is for the Sixers to win any game right now in their current situation. No Embiid, still no Covington, no DeAnthony Melton. You missing Tyrese Maxey now for his third straight game due to a concussion. Kyle Lowry out for rest on the second half of a back-to-back. You're missing so much. I understand that. But who in the blue hell did the Memphis Grizzlies run out on the Wells Fargo Center floor the other night, Scotty? People keep saying, oh, this Sixers team is G League. This Sixers team wouldn't win 20 games if they blah, blah, blah. The Memphis Grizzlies wouldn't win 10 games if they played a full 82-game season with this rotation they put out the other night.
Yeah.
Everyone keeps talking about what the Sixers don't have, what they had last night. You know the Sixers at least had on the floor the other night, Scotty? Viable NBA options. Viable role players. Are they missing a true number one? Hell, are they missing a number two option on the floor right now? Yeah, because Tobias Harris isn't that, and we're going to get to him in a few moments.
Yeah.
But they have Tobias Harris. They have Kelly Oubre Jr. They have Nico Batum. They have Buddy Hield. They have Campaign. Those are NBA basketball players.
Yeah.
The Memphis Grizzlies had Jaren Jackson Jr. and Luke Kennard is considered a role player, a sharpshooter in this league.
Yeah.
Nobody else
solid.
On that rotation.
They have solid guys, but I mean, on the other side, that the Sixers have solid guys, right? Like, yeah, there's no excuses here, man. And the difference for me, honestly, like when you look at Jaren Jackson Jr., you can argue that he's the best player on the court. I get that, right? Like, he's definitely better than Tobias Harris, for sure. But at the end of the day...
And the Sixers have the next 5 best players.
He's not a number one option either, right? Like, Jaren Jackson Jr. isn't a guy that should come out and drop 30 on us, right? Like, I don't think so. But, you know, it's not even about that. It's when you look down the rest of the roster for the Grizzlies in comparison to that of Tobias Harris. He's the guy that comes to front row here. Because you can look at the Grizzlies and say, Aldama, he had a better game than Tobias Harris, 17, 7, and 4. Vince Williams Jr. had a better game than Tobias Harris, 17 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds. Luke Kennard, 15 points, 2 assists, 2 rebounds. Jake LaRavia, 19 points, 13 rebounds, brother. Like, these are the guys that are exposing the Sixers and beating the Sixers. And we're just asking for Tobias Harris to, like, show up and give us your average. Like, if Tobias Harris gives you his average on that night, you win the game. Like, it's honestly, it's kind of that simple for me. Obviously, there's other things that play into it, right? Like, different decisions that can be made down the stretch. And this is the difference from the night before against the Brooklyn Nets for me, where I sat here and I thought that Nick Nurse was the number one culprit in that loss. And I still believe it because Tobias Harris did not play like he did against the Grizzlies the night before. They had opportunities, and I thought the lineups that were used at the end of the Brooklyn Nets game were not optimal towards what we needed to do at the end of that game. Can't say that about the Grizzlies. I look at this game, and I even go to the box score here if you didn't watch the game. Who do you look at? Like, I mean, okay, Campaign is a minus 18 and plus minus. Obviously, something was off there with his effectiveness. Yeah, Jeff Doughton Jr. was a plus 17. He was a positive in this game. 10 points. And he did look solid, man. He's, like, steady. He shows no emotion. I kind of like it. But nonetheless, we're at new lows anytime we're talking about that.
Yeah.
But you look at the rest of this team. I mean, Mo Bamba didn't play that much. Tobias Harris is the outlier. Paul Reed had a great game. Campaign had 16 points, 4 assists, 5 rebounds. Buddy Hield had 15 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Batum even gave you more points than Tobias Harris. Like, what the fuck?
They had 6 players in double figures the other night. And the max contract guy, the guy you need to step up the most in Maxey and Embiid's absence, was not one of them. Double digits. Yeah. I'm not talking 15 plus. I'm not talking 20 plus. 10 points. They had 6 dudes reach 10 plus points in this matchup. And that guy was not one of them. Yeah. And it's not that he was shy with the ball. It's not that he wasn't aggressive enough. Yeah, he needed to be more aggressive at times because about 8 other dudes took more shots than him. Yeah. But he was 3 for 12. Scotty.
That's on him. Yeah.
He was 1 for 4 from 3. He hit the first 3 he took in the game, I believe. What are we doing here, man? And it's funny because, you know, I'm watching the game with my sister and her boyfriend, and she actually, like, she like likes to, but she doesn't like Tobias Harris. She does, but it's like
she wants to like him. He's a cool, he's a good guy.
And she gets very frustrated with how people, put the blame on him and what social media says about him because he's not shit, she says. And I said, I understand that. And then I bring up the money. She doesn't want to hear the money. She's just talking about play on the floor. And I'm like, I understand that. But it was funny to me. I bring that up because in the first half, when we were up by like 12 or 13 at one point in the second quarter, and he had 4 points, I believe, or 3 points he had on 1 of 5 shooting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Hale, I get you. But if they were to lose this game and he finishes with like 9 points, he is the main reason they lose. And she's like, well, what did everybody? I'm like, it doesn't matter what everybody else does. Yeah. He will be the main reason. And I never in a million years, when I said that sentence, actually thought the Sixers were going to allow those Memphis Grizzlies to come back. And this dude legitimately would not reach 10 points.
9. He didn't reach 9.
He actually came out in the second half and got to the free throw line and hit a floater. He scored like 4 points in the first like 2 minutes of the second half and did nothing since that point. He is the main, possibly sole reason they lost this game. And the other thing I cannot just take from people on social media when it comes to these last 2 losses is why is nobody talking about the fact of the fashion that the Sixers have lost these 2 games in, more specifically the other night scoring 16 points in the fourth quarter at home to that team. Because everyone's acting as if like the Sixers team is so beat up and so depleted that they shouldn't even that they can't play a basketball game. Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question, Scotty. How the hell are they up by double digits through 3 quarters of both of these games? They were fine the first 3 quarters. No. They could play those quarters, but then they lose, and now we get back to the injuries. It's not a fucking excuse, man. Yeah. It's not an excuse to lose that game the way you did.
One common denominator from what I'm seeing when I watch those 2 games, one common denominator with the fourth quarter fall apart, Buddy Hield is taken off the court. And it's not to say that Buddy Hield is like this difference in them losing or winning the game, but when you look at specific moments, they need a bucket. They could not get a bucket. And I'm not saying that Buddy Hield is going to come out, dribble through his legs, 3 times and get to the rack and get you a layup. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying his presence on the court draws attention in those moments, and other guys are going to get better looks. All those drives to the lane for Kelly Oubre where he gets one-on-one and he can go to the rack and maybe get fouled or maybe dunk on somebody. It's nice to have Buddy Hield out there to draw the defender out of the lane so that 3 guys aren't collapsing on Kelly Oubre. And that's what I'm looking at down the stretch that I'm just not liking, man. I get it. You're taking Buddy Hield out for defensive purposes of Batum, Oubre, blah, 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 to have the length. I get it. Oubre's not a great defender, man. It's not worth it. It's not worth it offensively.
I'm not going to lie to you, bro. I like Kelly Oubre Jr. I'm going to love him even more when they're fully healthy and he's coming off the bench for this team. He's a bucket getter. I understand that's what he was brought in to do. His effort on defense blows. Like, he's just constantly out of position. Yeah. If he gets beat by half a step, he gives up on the play and expects help underneath the rim.
Gambles constantly, bad gambles.
A fucking ton.
Yeah, bad gambles.
It costs them almost every time, it feels like. If that's the reason, if it's Buddy Hield being subbed out for defensive purposes, what the fuck is Campaign in the game for late in these ball games then? Because who is he guarding, Scotty? So I don't know the reason that Buddy Hield's kind of drawing the short end of the stick late in games. And again, like you said, this is not to say that Buddy Hield.
It's just late in games too. He's playing most of the games. Yeah. It's just late in the game in the fourth quarter.
I mean, he was 6 of 17 from the floor. It's not great, right? He was a -4. The whole starting lineup was a negative, right? Yeah. But so it's not like when he had his moments, he was, knocked down. Not like he was 10 of 15 shooting or anything like that. But you at least have to have that option on the floor for me late in games. Yeah. And you
saw it in this game. He hit a 3 to bring the deficit from 6 to 3. Yeah. I mean, you saw it at the end of the game.
Hit a 3. Yeah.
Yes. And that's why he has to just be in the game. Like, when you are limited on the talent and offensive skill,
Yeah.
He has to be on the court in those moments. And that's what I'm getting at. Like when you get Embiid, Maxey back, you get Kyle Lowry back, and you have options. You get D-Melt back maybe. I'm not sure with his back injury the way they're making it sound. But you get some of these guys back, you have more options, then it becomes understandable. But when we're talking about Campaign or Nicholas Batum, like being on the court in closing game settings, I can't rely on that offensively when I have a Buddy Hield who can space the floor and do things on offense.
And again, that's where those injuries do come into play, right? Because I mean, in the beginning of the year when you have Maxey and Embiid and Tobias and these guys closing out games, Nico Batum seems like a nice fifth option to help close out the game as a wing defender, as a guy that can sit in the corner and hit a shot if need be down the stretch. But it's like, it's almost as if with all these injuries, Nico Batum's being subbed in heavily in the fourth because they need Nicholas Batum out on the floor in the fourth quarter. And it's like, now we have a problem due to these injuries. So
I will say one thing about Kelly Oubre, and I do agree with you. I think that you give and take with him, right? He was 7 for 21 from the field. He did have the 25 points. I think he led the team in scoring back-to-back nights. The one thing that I'll give him credit for, and where he he completely exposes Tobias Harris, he kind of he figures out the equation, right? Like, regardless win or lose, he's going to get points and he's going to get buckets. And that's the thing that with Tobias Harris, when there is nobody left that can get you a fucking bucket on the team, you have to step into that role and find a way. Kelly Oubre gets to the line 9 times in this game. And mind you, this is the NBA. This is modern day NBA. You can find ways to score the basketball. You just got to kind of be smart and aggressive about it. And that's the thing with Tobias Harris. Kelly Oubre's on a minimum deal, and he can figure it out for one night and do that, right? Tobias Harris just never. Like, you just never get it. Like,
test for the dude. I don't know.
It's wild to me, man.
Scotty, I watched him take it in transition late in this game in the fourth quarter. And I believe we had like a 3-on-1. And he gets to the rim and like gets caught in the air and ends up just turning the ball right back over. A 3-on-1, Scotty. He's so – I can't figure him out either because it's like the first show we did this week, we gave the man credit because a week and a half ago he wasn't playable and he was getting shredded by Sixers fans. And then he goes and drops 31 and he drops 20-something and they win 2 games. He has an okay game, 18 points, about 50% shooting the other night. I believe he was 10 of 18 against Brooklyn. You needed more, but at the end of the day, he wasn't really to blame for this loss. Right.
Yeah.
And then you get back to last night, and it's like the low of new lows, and he's being booed out of the stadium. And it was hilarious to me, and I don't know if they actually didn't realize it, if they are just trying to deflect the situation and they're understanding it. But at one point, he like turned the ball over and thought he got fouled or whatever, and the crowd started booing. And Kate makes a comment that the crowd's booing for a no call. And I'm like,
you don't even know.
Oh, that's not why the crowd's booing, brother. Like, that crowd's giving it to him right now. And I saw Kai Carlin, I saw Austin Krauss tweets and everything that crowd was not loving Tobias Harris last night, and rightfully so, man. Because like I said, you can't figure out this dude. It's not even just inconsistency, Scotty. It's 7 points or 30.
He looks like he doesn't belong in the NBA. Like the other night, like
literally,
he's the worst player on the court in that Memphis game.
And he should have been the best. Of 10 dudes on the floor, Tobias Harris should have been the one to stand out and shine in that moment. And he was possibly the worst player on the floor.
And it points to, because you had all these people that came out and had their Tobias apology forms out after last weekend, right? And you look at who they played. They played the Charlotte Hornets, horrible defensive team, and they played the Dallas Mavericks, another horrible defensive team. He played well, right? When there's Matador defense in front of him, obviously. But you get to Brooklyn, it wasn't as bad, but Brooklyn has some lengthy guys. Dorial Finney-Smith, right? He went off in that game. He's a guy that can actually contest with Tobias Harris. And then you get to Memphis, and they have a little bit of size, right? They have Jaren Jackson Jr. down there. They have Aldama, who's a 7-footer. The John Conchar guy, right? Like all these guys, man, like Jake LaRavia. And these guys have a little bit of size, and all of a sudden, they're grabbing rebounds over Tobias Harris. They're blocking his shot. He's not able to get any open looks. He's not able to get in the lane. He's not able to find open guys. He's getting double teamed, by the way, and he still can't find open guys. Like, it's beyond ridiculous, man. They're in a tough spot right now, and that's admittedly. But, like, all the excuses at the end of the day, it's not that the Sixers can't beat this team. Like, no.
I can't take it,
stop.
man. Honestly, Scotty, I interacted with a couple people on Twitter, and I try to, like, take a deep breath and just, like, you know what? It ain't worth it. Like, we're on Twitter. We're never going to get the point across. We're never going to agree, right? But if we're making excuses for these 2 losses, and I get it, they're going to get healthier. Like, once Maxey comes back, that changes things. It's not just waiting for Embiid. It's like if you have Tyrese Maxey, you have a hell of a better chance of winning these ball games. Kyle Lowry didn't play the other night. Like, I get that.
Yeah.
But if you're going to make these excuses and not hold anything accountable for the last 2 losses, let's just not play the rest of the regular season until Joel Embiid comes back.
Right.
Because if they can't beat the Memphis Grizzlies at home, who are they going to win a game against, Scotty? Who are they going to win? I'm not going to lie to you. They play the New Orleans Pelicans tonight at home. They might lose by 42. Maxey's out again. There's no Tyrese Maxey coming tonight.
Lowry's not going to save your day against the Pelicans, man.
No. I mean, a good day from Kyle Lowry is what, 15 points?
Yeah. Those 2 games were the games you needed to win, man. And that's what really, really, it causes concern going forward because those were the give you games, the gimme games, right? Like those are the teams that you needed to beat. And even, I get it's on the tail end of the back-to-back, and I get it. You got to be cautious with the guy Kyle Lowry's age. You're down this many. Like, Kyle Lowry can't give you 5 minutes against Memphis. Like, he just has to be out completely for rest. Like, you can't just not start him, maybe. I don't know, man. Like, that's a must-win game in my eyes. Yeah. Like, when I look, like, let's look at their schedule coming up. I mean, Pelicans, that's a loss. Knicks in New York, with what we've just watched. The Knicks in New York. Back-to-back games.
I mean, we talked
about
this.
You need to win one of them at least.
Scotty, we talked about this like a week ago or less. And this is hopefully with Maxey playing, and they'll have a better chance. But
hopefully not Brunson. Knock on wood.
With all those injuries, if Jalen Brunson's not playing, no OG Anunoby, no Julius Randle, all of these injuries, that should be 2 wins for the Sixers.
Should be.
And right now, we're staring down the barrel of 2 losses.
Yeah.
With the way that they're playing.
Jalen Brunson is apparently going to be a game-time decision. So we might get Brunson. But even then, it's Brunson versus Maxey at that point. Like,
yeah. Right.
What are we talking about?
Tobias versus Bojan.
Yeah. But after the Knicks, we get the Bucks, man. Then you get the Hornets. You would like to think that the Hornets at home is a win, right? Like, can I lock that one in? Like, I don't know. Can I lock that one in, man? Then it's the Heat at home, Suns on the road, Lakers on the road, Clippers on the road, Kings on the road, Clippers at home, Cavs on the road, Raptors on the road to finish this month. And you just drop 2 in a row against the Nets and the Memphis Grizzlies at home. Grizzlies at home, Nets on the road. But, I mean, Brooklyn, what's the difference? I mean, not good, man. I mean, luckily the Miami Heat lost last night to the Mavericks, so that was good for the Sixers, but they got the same record right now, and the Miami Heat have Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. So, I mean, they have players. Like, I don't know, man. The Pacers, luckily, Ant Edwards saved us last night a little bit, right? It's not looking good, man. Get Maxey back, though. Maybe that's a 25 to 30 point increase. It is. At the end of the day, that's 25 to 30 point increase. get him back and maybe some of these games
if you have Tyrese Maxey and Kyle Lowry for the last 2 games, you win both.
You win those games, yeah.
I get it. Well, our whole point is they still shouldn't have lost and blown double-digit leads without those guys, regardless.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We will see, man. But let's do it. I'm tired of talking about this.
Yeah, Marshawn's right. Let's get the vibes right.
I'm interested to see what Martian has to say about this first topic, and it is the title of today's show. Should the Philadelphia Eagles be interested in Saquon Barkley? The rumor is, Scotty, that there is mutual interest between the former Giant running back and our Eagles. And this one has Eagles Nation divided on social media and on Twitter. And I just find it absolutely outrageous. I find it absolutely hilarious. Let me start with this. Am I banging the table for Howie Roseman to go out and get me Saquon Barkley and overpay in a position that he has never paid for in the past? No, I'm not. Do I understand the injury concern when it comes to Saquon Barkley? Yes, I do. But can we please, for the love of all that's fucking holy, stop with these people that just don't want Saquon Barkley? Like, it don't matter. It don't matter what the cost would be, Scotty, apparently. You could sell them. They signed Saquon Barkley for a 1-year, $6 million deal, and they'd still say, nah, the injuries. Give me – what are you talking about? What are we talking about?
Yeah.
A few things, okay? Let's just have this conversation because this is how free agency works, right? Like, yeah, when it comes to contract negotiations and money and longevity, yeah, injuries come into play between management and agents and the players. But us as fans, we're doing a podcast. We're going to talk about this as if everyone's healthy. He's healthy. These other options are healthy. Other running backs are healthy. Okay, if Saquon Barkley's fully healthy and everybody else is fully healthy, name me the running backs you would take over Saquon Barkley in the National Football League. I can give you one right off the top of my head. It's the best running back in the game, best dual threat. Okay, Christian McCaffrey. There's one.
Yeah.
All right. Nick Chubb, pound for pound. I think Nick Chubb might even be the best running back in the NFL when he's healthy. Oh, wait. Nick Chubb's coming off another major injury that could end his career.
Yeah. The only other one that I would like reach for is like a guy like Bijan Robinson, who's just young, right? Like he's in
with the upside,
year, no tread on the tires,
yeah. I mean,
or no wear and tear. There's a lot of tread on the tires, I should say. No wear and tear on the tires. Breece Hall is another guy in that category, but like they're not proven at the same time, right? Like we're going with upside in those cases. We're going with injury history and all that involved. But when you look at Saquon Barkley, pound for pound running back in the NFL, he's top 5, top 3, right?
Exactly. Like to Martian Lynch's point, and Breece Hall had a season-ending injury when he first came into the league, right? He said Bijan or Gibbs, CMC, but we're in agreement. It seems like he's for sure top 5, without a doubt, top 5. Everything on the table, healthy. Then what the fuck are we talking about, man?
Yeah, I mean,
what are we talking about?
With the Eagles,
and by the way, for everybody out there that wants to bitch and moan and talk about his injury concerns, he said 1 year where he missed basically a season with a major injury. That was back during COVID in 2020.
Yeah,
when he went down with the what was it, a knee injury, I believe.
Yeah.
Last 2 years, he's played 14 for the lowly Giants. See, and everyone looks at that. Well, he missed 3 games.
Where he has the weight of the world on his shoulders for the New York Giants, right?
And not to mention they're out of contention at whatever week. So why would
you pound them into the ground?
No Daniel Jones, no backup quarterback. Yeah. Tommy DeVito's getting benched. Why would Saquon Barkley play 17 games and run the ball 400 times? It's not going to happen, okay? Saquon Barkley's not going to do it. The Giants aren't going to do it. The year before that, 16 games, Scotty, 295 carries, 1,300 yards, double-digit touchdowns. The year before that, 13 games. His rookie year, he played a full season. 2019, 13 games, over 215 carries. He's had 1 year with a severe, serious injury.
And can I just point out, what did people say about CMC before he got to San Francisco?
He was injury plagued.
And now he's the best player in the NFL. Like, not running back. He's the best player. in the NFL with a stacked San Fran offense.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Saquon Barkley will become CMC, but I mean, the talent is there, right?
It's top 3 to 5 for sure.
And when it comes to running backs, all it comes down to is being lucky that they're able to stay healthy. Can they get lucky and stay healthy for a full season? And that's any running back. Like, if you're going to bang the table for DeAndre Swift, I love DeAndre Swift. I do. And I won't be mad if the Eagles bring him back. He has injury concerns too.
Yeah.
Like, every running back comes with them. They're getting beat up every single season. Like,
at all, man. I
can't worry about it, in my opinion.
Like,
to an extent. There's an extent where you worry about it, right? I just don't think Saquon Barkley is there. Like,
do you know whose job it is?
Good.
Do you know whose job it is to worry about it? Howie Roseman's when it comes to contract negotiations. That's whose job it is to worry about it. What am I going to give this dude? Because there is some concern there. Okay, I'm not going to overpay. I'm not going to give him a 3 or 4 year deal. Maybe I'm not going to do this. If the Eagles go out and sign Saquon Barkley, do a 1 or 2 year deal, pretty cheap, because it seems like the running back market is pretty fucking saturated.
You have a ton of fucking options,
right? Why would anybody in the city of Philadelphia be mad? You want to talk about an offense that needed something last year? A top 3 to 5 running back, pound for pound in the league, that's also an excellent pass catcher.
And a pass blocker.
And
he's a better pass blocker. Like, that's the big negative with DeAndre Swift, right? Is that he can't block, he can't protect the quarterback.
And everyone keeps saying, well, DeAndre Swift wasn't used as a pass catcher last year, so what's it? Who called plays last year? And
it's not changing.
Now, granted,
hopefully Kellen Moore can do better.
Hopefully the offensive scheme doesn't stay the same under Nick Sirianni, and it's more Kellen Moore's offense. But we'll see. I think, like Marshall Lynch said, if you can get Saquon for the same price or a little bit more than DeAndre Swift, he will sign Barkley, hopefully. And I don't even know, Martian, like, for the other people out there, like, why that would even be an effing question for people.
Yeah. That's
I don't
my problem
understand it.
Don't try to sit here and tell me that, like, DeAndre Swift is better than Saquon. Like, you can argue price point. Like, DeAndre Swift is better at his price point if it's $3 to $4 million less per season than Saquon Barkley. That's maybe a fair argument, depending on what those price points are.
Right.
Don't tell me that Saquon is not better than DeAndre Swift.
Don't tell me you're ranking your top 10 running backs or
you're putting Swift ahead of Saquon Barkley.
And Saquon Barkley's behind DeAndre Swift. Don't do that.
And put Barkley in an offense with Goddard, with A.J. Brown, with Devontae Smith, with Jalen Hurts, right?
Right.
I mean, just imagine the option between Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts to run the football. I mean, it's the same things we said about Swift. Swift is talented. Like, Saquon is on a different level.
Dude.
And that's fine to say. Like, we just don't have to lie.
Giant, bro. Have you already seen what Tiki Barber and Giants fans are talking about with
They're
this
getting scared?
They're pulling their hair out of their heads.
Because it also makes sense. They know it makes sense. He's from Penn State. Like, it makes sense. He's a Pennsylvania boy.
It makes a ton of sense. The only thing that wouldn't make sense is that Howie Roseman's going to spend for this, because that doesn't make sense.
I don't think he's going to, like, compete with Houston to outprice them for Saquon Barkley. I don't think that's going to happen.
But like I said, the rumor out there, I think Diana Rossini put this out there, is that the safety and running back markets are feeling around league circles like they have been in the past, where you're going to get a lot of 1 year, 2 year, cheaper kind of deals because teams aren't investing in those positions. So if Houston's in the same boat, who's to say you have to outbid Houston all this money and X amount of millions to do it?
And, maybe it's not Saquon, maybe it's Austin Eckler for cheaper. Maybe, you can go down the line. There's a lot of guys out there that are available, obviously. Let me ask you this. Would something like, what if you were able to get, like, I don't want to say a Derrick Henry, I think that's a little extreme, but if you're able to bring back like a DeAndre Swift and then bring in maybe like, For some reason, Ezekiel Elliott's coming to the top of my mind just because of like the pounder ability, right? The ability to run
that kind of running back that can
that type
spare
of duo.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you could get both of them for the same price as Saquon, but I still I don't know, man. I think I would still just go with.
I'll tell
Saquon,
you my biggest thing, and I'm not like pushing for anybody, obviously for any person or player to lose money and lose their job.
Yeah.
I hope he gets a job elsewhere in 2 seconds. But my biggest thing is I need Kenny Gainwell out of here. Like I need like I need the shadow. I need the idea in Nick Sirianni's head out of here. Whoever's coming in, Saquon, re-signing Swift, Derrick Henry, whoever's coming in, I don't need the Kenneth Gainwell name hanging over Nick Sirianni's head to where he needs to use him and get him touches and put him in pass blocking. Stop.
Yeah.
If you bring in Saquon Barkley, Saquon Barkley should touch the ball 25 to 30 times a game. Not just on the ground. I'm talking through the air as well. 25 to 30 times a game. You bring in Derrick Henry, continue to wear those tires out, baby.
Run him into the ground.
Please run the ball 30 times a game for me. I don't give a shit. Okay. AJ Dillon.
He's I was gonna say that's a great suggestion. That probably falls even further in line of what I was thinking rather than like an Ezekiel Elliott. But Blunt and Ajayi. That's exactly what I'm thinking there, Marshawn. I'm with you though. I think
it's like you always think like
it depends on the price point.
Gainwell. It is like you compare Gainwell to like Corey Clement being on that team. It's just like he's not that, man. Like he's just not. I'm sorry. He
hasn't made those
Corey
plays,
Clement
man.
Provided, man.
Corey Clement.
He made a lot of fucking plays.
He would have, 1 or 2 plays per game. It might not be the biggest game of the game,
games,
but a big first down, a big run that he wasn't supposed to break through.
I mean, the touchdown in the Super Bowl was unbelievable. So, I mean, it's interesting. So, I know we're like going down a rabbit hole down here in the past, but anyway, should the Eagles be interested in Saquon Barkley? Yes, of course. I think that any team looking for a running back services should be interested in Saquon Barkley. Should Howie Roseman overpay? Should Howie Roseman, give him a 3+ year deal, whatever the case may be? No, and I don't believe that Howie Roseman would ever even flinch about or consider doing that. But if we're just having the conversation of, hey, would you like Saquon Barkley on the Eagles? I think you're asinine to say no. I think it's pretty much that simple.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree, man. But when you think about just like the free agency picture right now, obviously like Justin Simmons got released. Who is it? The Baker kid, Jerome Baker from Miami got released, the linebacker. You got Devin White out there. You got CGJ out there. Who else, man? I mean,
let me
Jordan
give you the
Poyer
names.
just got released.
Yeah,
Micah Hyde.
I'll give you these safety names.
Tre'Davious White.
Jamal Adams, Justin Simmons, Buda Baker, Eddie Jackson, Quandre Diggs, Kevin Byard, Micah Hyde, Tracy Walker, CGJ, Jordan Poyer, Jordan Whitehead, Chuck Clark, Jaron Kearse, Darnell Savage, Kareem Jackson, Xavier McKinney, Deshaun Elliott. And then, I mean, we're getting down. I mean, Jeremy Chin's down there. Ryan Neal's down there. Adrian Amos is down there. So, I mean, you regress the lower I go down this list. But, I mean, there is double-digit names on that safety market list that I would be happy and consider an upgrade for this team. I think the interesting thing, Scotty, is how heavy does Howie Roseman go at this market? Because I want to. Yeah. I want to say I think Reed Blankenship is an excellent filler player. I think he's an excellent guy that deserves snaps and can play. I don't think Reed Blankenship is a starting safety in this league. I know we tried to talk ourselves into it last year. I think it's pretty evident that he's not one. So I want two. Again, I'm not saying I want 2 of the all-pro caliber ones, but get me an all-pro and get me, a serviceable type of safety back there.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. Jeremy Chin, he seems like the guy that would be younger, more upside. Maybe he could grow with the Eagles a little bit, but still the talent is there. You can see it. He's a guy that I would definitely go after as kind of like that second option. But yeah, I think when you look at the top of the list, I mean, the Justin Simmons, those are interesting names. Yeah, Justin Simmons and like a younger safety like Jeremy Chin, I would be cool with because you do have Reed Blankenship there. You have Sidney Brown there coming off the ACL injury, of course, but Sidney Brown showed some flashes. And you can just hope that one of those guys can turn into that third safety, right?
Yeah.
That playmaker in the third safety role.
And you're talking
Justin Simmons' age does worry me a little bit, just coming out of the Kevin Byard experience.
Let me throw you these. Right. Well, exactly. You brought up Kevin Byard. Well, Eddie Jackson's 30. Quandre Diggs is 31. Kevin Byard's 30. Micah Hyde's 33. Jordan Poyer's almost 33. J-Ron Curse is 30. Yeah,
McKinney and Cameron Curl are two interesting names as well that are in the mix there. They're both from division rivals, obviously, but I think they are a little bit younger. I think Cameron Curl is like 24, 25.
Xavier McKinney's 24.
24.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that I would be okay with spending big money there. Now, I would need to look up a little bit more about McKinney, but from what I hear, everybody seems to like this guy and what he does and what he brings. Especially, everything we got to keep in mind is Vic Fangio now as well as the defensive coordinator.
I'm glad you said that because that's where the Justin Simmons thing sells.
Yeah, the fit.
Not only is the
and I do think he has more juice than Kevin Byard. I'll say that. Like, I'm not throwing Justin Simmons in the trash. I think he has a lot more juice compared to what I saw from Kevin Byard last year.
And I would just say, like, man, it feels like we've been missing that voice, right? That connector in the, and normally you look for the linebacker position to do that, to connect the front end to the back end. But safeties can do that. Like, the great ones can do that. The veterans can kind of do that. And if you're implementing kind of a new system this offseason, what better way to have your quarterback out on the field than bringing in his Pro Bowl caliber safety that he has been with? You know what I mean? So
I agree.
That's a selling point for me for Justin Simmons. Like Marshall Lynch said, the production's still there, dude. It's still there a ton.
Is there any interest in a corner? Like in free agency? Like, the reason I asked that is because we already have a good amount of money invested into the cornerback position, but you do have guys out there like Kenny Moore. I just saw like Kendall Fuller.
Well,
there's a couple guys. Obviously, there's Jarius Sneed's available.
I think the thing with corner is, we have more bodies there, we have more money there, and we have obviously bigger names there with the two that we signed last offseason.
Yeah,
but we just released Devontae Maddox.
Yeah.
I don't know a single Eagles fan that is excited to watch James Bradberry play on the outside again. And what is Darius Slay this year?
Yeah.
He's had injury concerns. He's had playmaking concerns.
Yeah.
He's having leadership issues with a captain's patch on his chest. What do we have there? I mean, we're excited for Isaiah Rodgers to come in after being suspended.
Hasn't played in how long?
Right. We're talking about like the Eli Ricks of the world. We're talking about the I'm drawing a blank on our draft pick from Georgia from last year.
Keely Ringo.
There it is, Ringo. Yeah. We're talking about those guys stepping up in an elevated role potentially.
Fair, but
I'm going to be honest with you. One of the biggest question marks heading into this summer and heading into the regular season for me is going to be cornerback.
Yeah,
because how many moves are you realistically going to make there when you're paying your two starters, right? Yeah. And you have these younger guys to fill the slot. But what are the two starters at this point?
It's like, is that the position you go after in the draft rather than free agency?
Sure. Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm at is, get another young corner in here, but do it early, right? First or second round, that needs to be invested because they need to be able to play. Like, if James Bradberry is still just a hot piece of garbage, you're going to need somebody that can step in and play and be able to start, man.
And you know what I'm interested to see from a guy like Vic Fangio that's been around the block, that isn't going to take bullshit? I'm interested to see his leash with a guy like, say, James Bradberry, because he's got to be aware publicly of what happened last year with James Bradberry's drop-off.
Yeah.
And if James Bradberry for the first month of this season looks like hot garbage, is he playing still simply because of the money? Or does
Right.
Vic Fangio say, you're no longer
Right.
our best option at winning in this position, so I have to move on right now? So I'm
I think
interested to see
so.
that. But
Go ahead.
go.
Oh,
No,
I
go.
was just going to say something like this is interesting ultimately because the other side of that Darius Slay and Vic Fangio conversation is I'm not 100% sure that they're just even going to get along. Like,
Right.
I like from what certain Miami players down there in
Yeah.
Miami and their thoughts, like Jalen Ramsey,
Yeah.
the Xavier Howards, right? These mouthy corners, these guys, these corners who have a voice, right? They
Egos
didn't
is
seem
the
to
way to
like a
put it.
guy that doesn't put up with bullshit like a Vic Fangio. So it's just interesting to me how those kind of guys will mesh because I look
Yeah.
at Darius Slay in a similar light as those corners that like to voice their opinions, right? They got podcasts, all types of ways that they can get their opinions out there these days. And just curious how that meshes. Like, it's just as simple as Darius Slay being on Steven Nelson's podcast, right? And talking about the fans and kind of just tone deaf in that sense. And so it just takes you
It's
to the
perfect
point where
phrase.
you
We didn't
question
even talk about that,
leadership,
but yeah.
right? It's a huge
Yeah.
question mark there. And I think that extends with Vic Fangio to an even further extent. So,
Yeah, we didn't even talk
Yeah.
about that Darius Slay, Steven Nelson pod because I was dealing with the Wi-Fi issues and all. But
Goofy, man.
tone deaf is the perfect way to put it. I saw a lot of beat writers and other people kind of coming to his defense and saying that, he wasn't taking a shot at the fans. And I'm not saying he necessarily was taking a shot at the fans. And anyone can voice their opinions, and some people aren't. You're wearing the C, bro.
Yeah.
And you just went through the ending to a season that we all just went through. Now's not the time to hop on a former Eagles podcast. And while he's complaining about the fans, you're complaining about the fans. And you're not even making sense to me. I'm not going to stick on this too long, but like, Scotty, bro, you and I were texting back and forth about this. Are the fans harsh? Yeah. And are there outliers? Are there people that DM players and tweet at players and threaten players and yeah. And those people are scum and they don't represent the majority. Every fan base has them. Every group of life has people that are outliers that take things too far. But to sit here and try to talk like as if Eagles fans are sitting behind the Eagles bench calling out players and cursing at players. Scotty, I don't go to too many Eagles games, but you know our fan base. You've been to Eagles games. Are there Eagles fans wearing Eagles jerseys, barking at our own players on the sidelines, calling our own players trash?
Not from what I've seen.
No, I would venture to say no. Maybe it's a fan blending in from another team. There's not a group of Eagles fans that sit directly behind the bench and mouth off at our own players as if we don't want them to win, as if we boo for no reason. Hey, bud, when you're getting booed? When you're in the middle of a losing streak, when we were just a 1 seed in the NFC, and you're losing to the Arizona Cardinals at halftime at home. That's when you get booed at halftime, bro. So stop acting like you don't know. That's what I said to you before. They all play dumb, Scotty. And then literally after that podcast clip came out, he made a tweet saying, I don't know where all the hate's coming from. It's all love, Philly. You know where the hate's coming from.
I do. I just
absolutely know.
I do just wonder, like, how smart he is. Like, tone deaf.
So
like,
dumb, bro.
You can't read a room. I'm not gonna go to like IQ levels and stuff, but like,
bro, Jalen,
it's just weird, man.
After the playoff game in which none of you showed up in defense of your head coach, after that game was over, after that ass whooping to Baker mother effing Mayfield, and you got bounced in the first round, after that loss, after losing 7 of 8 to end your season, you were asked about your head coach's future in this position, and you played fucking dumb. I didn't know he was going anywhere. Are you serious? Are you serious? Stop, bro. We've said it before. You're not going to fool this fan base. That goes for head coaches, and that goes for the athletes as well. You didn't know anything was going on in terms of Nick's job security rumors? your play sure as hell didn't seem like it knew. I'll tell you that. So, listen, I'm over last season. I really am. And I'm excited for Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore to maybe give this team a different identity and for new looks and this offseason. And we have some money to spend in new positions and everything like that. But boy, this team needs a leadership overhaul, and they need to figure things out. The rumors that have come out about QB1 and the money and not knowing who, that shit better be put to bed. I promise you that. The not knowing what circles to run with and who to talk to and everything like that because he signed a big deal. You better put it to bed, bro.
Yeah, I'm personally not worried about Jalen Hurts. Like him personally, I'm not worried. I think he's going to be fine. And I like the opportunity for Jalen Hurts to step up as a leader. I'm hoping that he takes it and embraces it.
But that's my point. I think they need it. They need that because
I agree.
You're losing Kelsey. You might be losing Fletch. BG's kind of going on a farewell tour. So, he's here to win. He's here to play. But he's just enjoying the ride one more time. You know what I mean? He's not going to be an 8-10 that kind of guy. So,
that's kind of what I was talking about earlier this week when I was, talking about Jason Kelsey. It's not like I'm happy to see him go. I think there is something exciting in the fact that this will now be Jalen Hurts' offense. Like this is his offense. It will be, AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith. They are the voices. And I'm just interested to see what that looks like. It kind of excites me because it's just a new era. And I think that when you think about like the confusion that it seemed like guys were on different pages last year.
Absolutely.
I'm hoping that with this new era of leadership, whatever the case may be, I'm hoping that it can maybe bring some togetherness between this team. I'm hoping that it turns into something great. But I do agree with you. You got to cut the bullshit in 2024-25 season. That's the big thing between all of these guys. They got to cut the bullshit, cut the complaining, the crying, worrying about what the media is saying, the fans are saying. And just go out there and play football, man. That's what it comes down to.
Because, Scotty, they're so talented that if they just go out there and play football, they're going to win games. Yeah. And when you're winning games and you're putting in effort and you're focused on football, you're not going to hear from us. You're going to hear support from us. Yeah. It's when you don't show up. It's when you have an attitude back to the fan base after you've lost 3 straight games. No, you don't get to have an attitude right now.
Yeah. No, but I agree, man.
I have one more question for you when it comes to this offseason. But my sister just texted me, said, "Are you shit talking Tobias Harris?"
Not anymore.
I already did that. But I'm looking at all these holes this team has specifically defensively that they have to fill this offseason. Yeah. And there's a hole they don't have right now. But seems like it's going to be opening up to be another hole, and that is Hassan Reddick. And I know you and I were talking about the fact that he's just not Nick Chubb. He's not Nick Bosa. He's not Myles Garrett. He's not Max Crosby. Can you pay him that type of money? Blah, blah, blah. Can we afford not to pay Hassan Reddick at this point is my question. And I'm looking at, some of these trade ideas, and one of the things was someone would be willing to offer a second. And I'm just sitting here like, it sounds nice for a dude that has 1 year left on his deal right now and maybe kind of wants out. I don't know. But then you and I always go back to draft picks. And even when it comes to first rounders, I don't even know if I would just take in terms of like, if I had a first round pick, I would die if he turned out to give me Hassan Reddick's production. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, do I value that second round pick to move on from a 15 plus sack type of guy and open up another hole this defense needs to fill? Can we afford not to give Hassan Reddick what he wants?
Yeah, it's a tough question because there's a lot of layers to it. How much does he want? How long is the extension? What exactly is he looking for? If he's looking for $25 million a year, 4-year extension, I mean, that sounds kind of crazy for a team that is trying to build a Super Bowl contending team that has already invested money in their quarterback. But when you look at Hassan Reddick and like the draft compensation, I guess what I would want to know, if what Hassan Reddick has put out in the public is true, that he has not demanded a trade, he just wants an extension. Are you going to sit out this season if we don't give you an extension? Because that's kind of where I'm at. Just play it out this season. We'll see what he's able to put on the field. Yeah. And if he can go out there and produce at a $25 million rate, then give him the extension at that point.
Yeah.
But if he goes out here and he disappears halfway through the season like last year, then it's a hole anyways, right? Like, that's kind of where I'm looking at it. But you do have to look at the talent level. You have to look at who's going to replace him. Nolan Smith, you're counting on him to come out and have double-digit sacks. Like, I can't count on that. I can't count on Josh Sweat to stay healthy for a full season and be our number one edge rusher. So I think there's a lot of caveats here. If it's like a $23 million versus us just wanting to pay him like $20 million, then just do it. Like, get it over with, 2-year extension, whatever he's looking for there. So there's a lot of caveats. There's a lot of layers to it. At the end of the day, though, no, I wouldn't trade him to like get ahead of it or like get value back. Like, I think you just get the value of this season, because the upside of this season and having Hassan Reddick and the value of it is a chance at a Super Bowl. And it's not to say that they have a chance at a Super Bowl because of Hassan Reddick at the edge rusher spot. It's just that he can be a key piece. He can be your best pass rusher on a Super Bowl winning team. We've seen him in the Super Bowl. Like, we've seen him lead a defense to that point. So I think at the end of the day, if it came down to, Hassan Reddick set on 26 million per year, Eagles aren't willing to give that, I'm not moving you this season. You will just play on your contract that you have. If not, it just depends how far he's willing to take it, right? He said he's not demanding a trade. He's not asking out.
Right.
Well, then just play.
Right.
Like,
and you would just be
can't figure it out, just play then. But it never works out like that, it seems. So we'll see, man. I don't know.
Because
I also don't want to like create this culture of just giving guys whatever the hell they want. Like,
I agree.
We don't want to turn it into that as well, like the NBA, right? Just giving Tobias Harris a max contract to keep a decent player there.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
I
agree, man.
But I'm not saying Hassan Reddick's Tobias Harris. He's better than Tobias Harris.
No. Absolutely.
But he's one of my favorite players on the team.
To your point, it's not giving other guys pay grade. And we've discussed this already.
Yeah.
Is Hassan Reddick a premier pass rusher in this league? Yeah, I believe so. But he's a very niche type of linebacker. He's not a coverage linebacker.
Vic Fangio's scheme. Will he fit?
And he's just not those other guys. He's not. I'm sorry. He's great. And he's shown flashes of being a game wrecker. The Jacksonville game in 2022, I go back to all the time.
Yeah.
But Scotty, you and I talked about, and it's a product of Matt Patricia and Sean Desai. It's a product of the entire team and entire defense. It's not just his fault. Well, let me ask you this. Does Max Crosby play on a very good team?
Oh.
No.
He just gets after the quarterback, man.
Does Max Crosby disappear for 2 or 3 weeks in a row on the stat sheet?
Not from my understanding.
Me neither. So, you know what I mean? Like, the Steelers have a good defense. The Steelers are a borderline wild card team, but the Steelers literally live and die by TJ Watt.
Yeah.
Like, they literally win and lose games whether he's on the field or not.
Yeah. Put it this way. You have Cowboys fans talking about if they will pay Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
Like, that's what, and I think that's crazy. Yeah. But Micah Parsons is better than Hassan Reddick. Like, the thing with Hassan Reddick, it's no disrespect. He's like top 6, 7-ish edge rushers in the league, I would say. He had his opportunity last year to prove that he is a consistent game wrecker throughout multiple seasons, right? He had the Super Bowl to put his name on the platter. He had the Super Bowl opportunity to put his name out there. He was a no-show, like field or not, no-show.
Just because your environment regresses, meaning the defense was regressing and no one else is playing well, if you're that guy, you don't just follow suit. You don't just fall back into the norm of what and how everyone else is producing. And again, he wasn't being put in a great opportunity. I mean, we saw him drop back into coverage way more than he had in the past year and a half as an Eagle. But when he was lined up on the edge, he, along with everybody else, wasn't doing anything, like legitimately doing anything. So I look at it from that. And it's like, no, I can't give you $25 million.
Yeah.
But maybe can I give him 20? You know what I mean? Like would that do it? I don't know. We'll have to see how this year kind of plays out, Scotty. I mean, and you also have to look at it from this way. Is he a very good pass rusher? Yes. But let me ask you, how much of 2022 was just a complete outlier?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you go throughout his career, 12 and a half sacks is his next high outside of the 16 in 2022. He had 11 last year. He had 11 in 2021, 12 and a half with the Cardinals in 2020. Before that, he had 1, 4, and 2.5 in his first 3 years.
Yeah.
So how much of that 16 sack season is an outlier? And if that's an outlier, I can't pay you $23, $25 million a year.
Yeah.
For 11 sacks. I can't. Dude, Javon Hargrave got us 10, 11 sacks a year ago.
Walk.
I can't, as a D tackle.
Yeah.
I can't give an edge rusher with 11 sacks $25 million a year. So that would have to be my question in evaluating what he's worth. Was that year a total and complete outlier for Hassan Reddick?
Yeah. I can't speak to it yet. I think that's why you let him play this season. I think that's why. Like, give yourself a 3-year sample size of what Hassan Reddick is.
Now, granted,
had the low last year.
Yeah.
Last year was a low for this team, I'm hoping. I'm hoping that was the low of the low, dropping however many games that was, like 7 games in a row last year. I'm hoping that's a low of the low.
Yeah.
Right? We've seen the high of the high as well. We've gotten to a Super Bowl with him. Like, we've seen both sides. Let's see what is in the middle.
For sure, for us, the counter side is you don't pay him now and you don't trade him or whatever he wants. He plays this year. He dominates.
And then
what if he just goes
27 million from San Fran?
Right. So that is the other flip of the coin by not getting ahead of the curve and kind of rewarding a guy is he might take that as an insult and say, well, I'm going to go play somewhere else next year after this year. So we'll see, man. It's going to be an interesting offseason. It's going to be an interesting next month of basketball for the Sixers. And we have the Phillies and March Madness coming up as well. And the Flyers are still in a playoff spot. So we might be getting into that as it comes down the road. We're getting
a tone of Philly sports success or exciting times. I shouldn't say success, but hopeful success. And that's all we need is a little bit of hope. Maybe a question to take into next week, though.
Yeah.
I know we talked about Saquon Barkley, but free agency on the offensive side of the ball and maybe taking a look at that next week. We talked a lot of defense today.
Yeah.
But I think there's some areas they can look to improve in free agency on the offensive end, even outside of running back, right? Like, obviously, I think they're going to invest something there. They're going to get one of those guys, I think. But offensive line with Jason Kelce retiring, that's something to look at. Wide receiver 3, that's something I'm really, really interested in. Wide receiver 3 / tight end 2. Is something I'm really interested in.
It is, man. And again, like you said, we can look at kind of what options are available, and maybe something happens via trade for a wide receiver 3 or something like that. But it does beg the question over what we've gotten the last 2 years since acquiring A.J. Brown and having Devontae Smith, which have been unbelievable. Is there's been quite a few guys to roll through the door, and nothing's stuck, right?
Yeah.
Quez Watkins not it. We know that. I think we all understand that. Zach Pascal was here for a Super Bowl year. He's a good pass blocker. He's a good teammate. He provides nothing in terms of pass catching and making plays. They brought in Olamide Zaccheaus, caught a couple touchdowns, hardly touched the ball outside of that.
He's the best they've had in that role, but still
brought in Julio Jones, caught 2 or 3 touchdowns, didn't really play or touch the ball much out of that. So they brought guys through the door, different sizes, different speeds, different ages. They're trying to find a way. It's not working. Now, again, maybe with a Kellen Moore playbook, wide receiver 3 becomes more valuable, like a Michael Gallup in Dallas a couple years ago under Kellen Moore. So if you can look for something like that, absolutely sign me up. Tight ends 2 is interesting, right? Because we've had Dallas Goedert. He was underutilized last year as tight end 1. And all of our other tight end 2s, since moving on from Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert package, have just been primary blocking tight ends, your traditional blocking tight ends, right?
Yeah.
What does this offense look like with 2 pass catching tight ends? Like
right.
we didn't get him. Obviously, he's gone to Miami, but like a Jonnu Smith, type of tight end too. So.
And we know Goddard. We hate to say it, knock on wood, he's gonna miss 2 to 4 games this season, right? Like you're gonna have 2 to 4 games where you don't have your tight end.
Isn't that the funny thing when it relates to our initial conversation of Saquon Barkley? Like when Dallas Goedert's contract is coming up to an end or for an extension, I promise you, Eagles fans are going to be talking about how we need to re-sign Dallas Goedert, and they're right. Yeah. They will be right. But where's all your injury concerns with Dallas Goedert?
Yeah. It's funny.
Where you have him with Saquon Barkley, although he played 16 and 13 games the last 2 years, but you don't have him with Dallas Goedert, who's missed chunks over the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. Maybe that's something they invest in the draft too, right? Like you see how they did with Zach Ertz, and that was coming off a Super Bowl win. They went out and drafted Dallas.
I'm interested to see where Brock Bowers goes, bro. I'm interested. Like, is he like a top 15, 10, 12 type of draft pick? Or what if he slips into the 20s and Howie's like, you know what?
That would be a dream.
I haven't even, I'm being that serious. I haven't looked at mock drafts. I have no idea where people have him slated to go. He could be top 6 for all I know. I have no effing clue.
Let me see here. See if there's like a mock draft here I can pull up. Yeah, we got Mel Kiper's big board here.
What's Mel got for us?
Where's Brock Bowers fall? He falls on Mel Kiper's number 7 on his big board, top 25. Wow. So
there you go.
Probably not gonna happen, but hey, that like I said, that would be a dream. That's what I'm thinking. Like a Dalton Kincaid brought in to pair with the Dawson Knox.
The reason Buffalo, I bring that up, right? I bring something like that up is because this, and again, this is something we could talk to in the coming weeks when it comes to the NFL draft. Is obviously you're moving on from Kelsey. Is Juergens that center like we planned for? And then, but that opens up a hole at guard. You know, is Fletcher moving on and you're losing this person? You need replenishment on the D line. My question, Scotty, is it time to go in another direction in how we build this Eagles team? Because so many people are talking about an offensive lineman going with our first round pick, a defensive lineman going with our first round pick. And I'm just like, listen, we've won the franchise's only Super Bowl a couple years ago. We went to a Super Bowl 2 years ago. We've had success. I know that. But in the totality of building in the trenches, we have one piece of glory to hold on to. Yeah. And when you go back a few years ago, not taking Kyle Hamilton, taking Jordan Davis, going here and going here. I remember when JOK he's with the Browns. Pretty valuable linebacker on the Cleveland Browns. Wanted him in the second round. Forget where we went in the second round. I think we went backup offensive lineman. You continue to pass on linebackers. You continue to pass on safeties. You won't take a corner in the first round. Is it time to stop that? I'm not saying go away from it. Like, you know what I mean? Like a second round pick on an offensive guard, I'm not against. But that first round pick, if there is a stud there, Brian Branch was a first round safety. If a guy like Brian Branch is there, you taking Brian Branch or you taking a backup offensive lineman?
Yeah, no, I do agree, man. I think, for my preference, and it's something I'll mention next week as well, maybe dive into a little more deeper, but I would honestly rather go the free agency route for, like, if you want an offensive lineman to plug and play, right? Like, if you need somebody to go next to
and for
Cam
all
Juergens,
that we love,
if you're going to move him to center, you need a right guard, then go out and just pay a little bit of money for an experienced
veteran
right guard.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like
that way you solidify your offensive line, right? Like you have Landon Dickerson, you have Jordan Mailata, Cam Juergens. Those are the pieces for the future. You have Lane Johnson, you have your veteran right guard on the other side. And I think that's how you go about that rather than drafting in the first round. Like I'm going corner or safety in the first round.
That's what I'm saying, bro. Because, I'm looking for playmakers. I'm looking for players, bro. And as much as we as Eagles fans love our trenches. Well, did we run the ball behind our offensive line last year, Scotty? No. Did we pass block all that well for Jalen? No. How about our D-line? They get after the quarterback like we were hoping? No. All we did was complain about the trenches, but yet we want to keep investing in the trenches and not going out and getting guys like Brian Branch or Kyle Hamilton, not going out and getting a stud linebacker in the first or second round. But that's the smart thing to do. I'm not saying it's not intelligent, and it's the base on how this franchise has been run and built over the last decade and a half. But it's time to go out and put the finishing touches on a Super Bowl team, and the finishing touch isn't just a plug-and-play defensive tackle.
And I think there's obviously caveats to that. Like, if you have a guy that is supposed to be a top 10 pick that drops to your 22nd pick in the draft, and it's a defensive tackle or it's another edge rusher, right? Maybe you do that. It's still the smart pick. I'm not that far away from do not invest in the trenches if things fall your way that way.
Absolutely.
But if it comes down to one of those situations where it's Brian Branch or Nolan
Kyle
Smith,
Hamilton.
right?
Yeah,
I'm going with the playmaker that's going to be out in the field, right? Not in the trenches, out in space and able to make plays. Cooper DeJean, that's a guy that I've been seeing a lot of hype around. I like that idea out of Iowa. Yeah.
We would be the team
pairing.
to have the white corner or the white safety, bro. And maybe he's a stud in the league. I want to tell you something. There ain't many of them running around. There ain't many white boys running around at corner in the NFL. So maybe he's got what it takes.
Hey, they have him going top 20, man. He's apparently a really good playmaker. And even better once the ball is in his hands. So he's a guy that they can consider returning punts as well. So I like the idea of adding a playmaker, right? That's what I'm thinking. That's the only reason I say that. And if they decide to, invest in that position through free agency, I think that is the ideal route. But I would still invest my first round pick specifically on corner. That's where I'm going. Youth.
You'd have a couple of people's great grandfather or great grandfathers in the area going, "Oh, I like that pick." Now I'm back with Eagles.
You ain't lying. Yeah. You ain't lying. Don't pick him for those reasons. Pick him because he's good, right?
All those 80-year-olds that stopped watching when Colin Kaepernick kneeled, they'll be right back to being an Eagles fan. They drink Cooper DeJean.
It's funny you said that because there was this conversation on the radio the other day about Jason Kelce and a statue. Should a statue be built?
Yeah.
And the one guy's argument was no, because it should be Chuck Bednarik. Because he played center and middle linebacker back in 1967.
I did see, by the way, shout out to Mark Henry.
The old
I have seen him going back and forth with people on Twitter over the greatest, because I think it was Ray Didinger put out his greatest Eagles list, and it was literally Reggie White was the most recent of the three he has on his all-time list, and he's like, "What are we doing, man?" I do agree. Listen, Chuck Bednarik is going to be in every single one of Eagles all-time conversations, and I get you can't just throw out history of the game. They played the game, but the dude played with a leather helmet and
But he played center and middle linebacker.
You know what I mean? This is when Mad Dog Russo gets on First Take and talks about dudes from the 50s being in his top 10 all-time list, but Kobe Bryant isn't, or something like that. What the fuck are you talking about, bro? Seriously, stop. You don't deserve you.
It's
you
hilarious.
You lose your card to talk about it. All right.
It's hilarious. Yeah, no, I definitely feel you. And for me, Reggie White is interesting to me because I'm just curious, were his best years in Philadelphia? I would have to go back and look at the numbers. I wasn't, watching Eagles football intently when Reggie White was on the Eagles, but it feels like I always see pictures and highlights of Reggie White in Green Bay. I could be totally off base there, though. I could be. I know he had great years in Philly. I'm not disputing that. I'm just curious if his best play was done in Philadelphia. That one always is curious to me because I get it. He's just one of the most talented players to ever put on a uniform in NFL history. So the fact that he played on the Eagles, it's a big thing. I get it. I don't know.
Oh no, his years were here, bro.
Were they?
Oh,
interesting. Yeah. So I'm off base. I take it back then. If I'm completely off base.
I do agree with you that, like, when I see Reggie White highlights, like, on ESPN, like, they are in a Green Bay.
It's always Green Bay. Did he win a championship with Green Bay? Maybe that's why.
Maybe. But so in Green Bay, he's had his high in Green Bay was 13 his final year in 93. He came to Philly. Are you ready for this shit?
Yeah.
He came to Philly. He actually played longer in Philly, I believe, or the same amount of years. Wait. Or no, he started in Philly. Duh. My bad. I'm looking at this backwards. Yeah. I'm looking at this the other way around the list. So he in Philly, he was 13, 18, 21, 18, 11, 14, 15, 14 sacks. Then he went to Green Bay, had 13 and 93, and that was his high in Green Bay.
Okay, yeah, I was off. I'm looking at it now. I was off base.
But he might have. They definitely won a Super Bowl with the Packers.
Yeah, that's why you don't come on the pod and talk without looking at the numbers.
No. I do.
But that's crazy. Yeah, that's good to know, though, man. So yeah, I guess with those type of numbers, you do put him in that conversation. But his last season in Philly,
this is the last time those great grandfathers were fans.
Oh, Riley Cooper, man. It's crazy. His last season in Philly was the year before I was born, 1992. So that would be why I'm not familiar.
It's true.
But interesting. That's good to know, though. Put some respect on Reggie White in the Eagles uniform.
At least Reggie White played with like a helmet. Like like the 80s count. Like to me, anything from like the late 70s or 1980 and up is relevant.
So who would it be on
talking like 1965 and 1958 in sports? I'm like, what are we doing?
So Mount Rushmore, what is it? It's so Reggie White's on there. I mean, looking at these numbers, they are ridiculous.
For the Eagles?
Yeah, Jason Kelce.
My Mount Rushmore would be Reggie White, Doc. Kelce. And then I think fourth is open for a lot of discussion. Because I think you can
say Nick Foles.
That's what I was going to say. But he's not one of the four greatest Eagles ever played. But he delivered the one thing,
the best moment.
Yeah.
That is a tough one.
You know what I'm saying?
Brian Westbrook comes to mind too, just from my era.
Yeah. I don't
tough.
know,
that's something to think about. Zach Ertz is another quality player for years.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going back, I don't know. Like, people, McNabb's so polarizing. He went to four straight NFC championships. I mean, Owens was only here for a year or two, but he's one of the greatest receivers ever and went to a Super Bowl when he was here. But if you go back further, you got guys in the secondary, or you have like a Jerome Brown that played here with Reggie White. You have a Randall Cunningham. Like, the fourth,
I do think of like
is really tough.
Troy Vincents of the world, like.
Yeah. Shady,
I don't know.
He's got Shady on his.
My trip. Yeah, Shady McCoy. Yeah, these are. It's hard because we're modern day fans, right? Like our era is 2000s, like
right. And there's different ways to look at it. Like, does winning play a factor? Does being the best play a factor? Does just remembering because you stood out so much? Like, Shady's memorable, I should say. But like, all right, we're putting Kelce up there, right, at center, and deservingly so. Does that kind of put Lane in the conversation? Because Lane's been the best right tackle in the leagues for the last decade.
Somebody came to mind, and I decided to look him up because he's a guy that gets talked about and like getting inducted into the Hall of Fame conversations of late. But Eric Allen, man, I'm looking at his numbers, bro. Interception totals from 1988 to 1993. 5 interceptions, 8 interceptions, 3 interceptions, 5 interceptions, 4 interceptions, 6 interceptions, 3 interceptions. So he had 3 or more interceptions for what?
I had this conversation with my uncle in the summer. I believe he had Eric Allen on his.
So I mean, Eric Allen, he has an argument at least, right?
Yeah, it is tough, man.
We should do. We'll have to maybe do some more research and figure that out by the end of the summer or something. Come up with
and by the way,
top 4.
By the way, this is Hassan Reddick's average. So am I paying Hassan Reddick $25 million for Reggie White's lowest sack total? I don't know.
We'll give Reggie White $45 million.
Yeah. But anyway,
man.
That is going to do it for this Friday edition of the Phaithful Phanatics Show, guys. As always, if you're new to the channel, make sure to smash that subscribe button. We're 10 away from our first 100 subscribers. So if we've gotten to 91, we've gotten to 92, and then 1 or 2 people unsub for some reason. So help us officially.
Probably that week we took off.
Subs. Yeah, help us get to that first 100 subs and on from there. For myself, for Scotty, have a great rest of your weekend. We'll be back on Monday morning.
Peace, everybody. Go Sixers. Get a fucking